Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on Industry 5.0. Michael Rada basically he introduced Industry 5.0 a few years ago and now he has a very big team around the world. So World Talent Economy Forum also supporting Industry 5.0, especially his concept. And we have our world famous speaker, Mr. David Smith. And today we will discuss on general introduction of Industry 5.0 and we will organize a series. This is our first episode on Industry 5.0. Mr. Michael Rada, what you want to share? We are working with the industry, government, as well as different academy in Southeast Asia. We want to promoting your concept. So how we can do that? How we can bring more success for our industry? How we can develop the sustainable economy system for emerging economy?
Okay, thank you for having us and having me. I am really happy that we have such a great guest as David Smith on board as well. And you did not mention, Sharif, I think it's important to mention that you are yourself the new Industry 5.0 ambassador in Bangladesh, which is a very important role. And for us, Bangladesh counts to countries which we think that Industry 5.0 should be implemented as soon as possible, helping all, not only after the big wind and generally the issues of their last days, but to help to develop. But firstly, to introduce, I will slightly correct the information that Industry 5.0 is few years old. It's more than 7 years old, but the principles are being implemented for more than decades. So since 2013. And just to very briefly introduce Industry 5.0, it is not, as many consider, the fifth industrial revolution, but it is the first industrial evolution ever led by man, by human. It based on the principles of systematic waste prevention, called industrial upcycling. And it is important to understand that it prevents 5 types of waste: physical, social, urban, process, and wasting of time. All these 5 can be prevented using the same methodology, and all of them can be applied in any industry, anyone, and it does not matter in which size of company or country or organization you would like to implement. All of them work same. So your words that we are working with companies, entrepreneurs, so as governments is exactly what we do at the moment. So that's just for the short introduction. Maybe the last information. At the moment, Industry 5.0 ambassadors are located in 111 countries all around the globe.
Thank you. Now I request Mr. David Smith.
Well, Sharif, thank you. I love what Michael said about this, and I kind of look at the whole Industry 5.0 as a way to refine what we see as the different industry views going forward and how they can be used. And what I'd like to do now is jump into some of the differences, really on it later, but many companies and regions of the world are still trying to implement Industry 4.0. And Industry 4.0 is really triggered by the digitalization of everything and by the developments in information technology, uh, including automation, robots, big data analysis, a lot of AI, a lot of smart systems, the ability we can do virtualization everywhere, machine learning, and now the Internet of Things uh, and how even conversational AI is changing Industry 4.0. And so while companies and countries are still implementing Industry 4.0, and there's a lot of innovation left in Industry 4.0, the next revolution, as Michael talked about, Industry 5.0 is already on its way, and it really began back Michael, what I have in my information on this, that it really began back in 2017 with the Japanese Business Federation at
No.
CBIF. And anyways, as it goes forward with it, it will continue to change. And according to EU, the European Union, it provides a vision of industry that aims beyond efficiency and productivity as the sole goal, and reinforces the role of and the contribution of industry to society. So it's really about the people. And it places the well-being of the worker at the center of the production process. It puts the users as a very big place in Industry 5.0. And it's looking how to use new technologies to provide prosperity beyond just the jobs and growth, while respecting the environment and respecting the production limits of the planet. And it complements Industry 4.0 by putting research and innovation to be a service in the transition to a sustainable, human-centric industry. And it's the shift from economic value to societal value, and the shift from welfare to well-being. And you particularly see this when you look at the corporate social responsibility, the ESG, or the triple bottom line. And the whole concept behind Industry 5.0, in my view, is to really help repurpose some of the objectives we see in industry. Some of the objectives we see is balancing the economics, the productivity, and the welfare of the people involved with it. So, Sharif, that's my first comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Martley.
What were you saying again? I didn't hear your opening comments and everything. You're staticky a little bit.
Yeah, we are discussing on Industry 5.0. So what's your view about Industry 5.0?
You'll have to explain to me what Industry 5.0. I know that we are definitely having a new attitude of the industry, and the industry is actually trying to innovate with the new innovations going on. I have friends of mine in the labor movement, so they would probably be very much interested in what Industry 5.0 is. It sounds like it's very much a more humane version of old industry, and if that is the case, I think many of them would probably be in favor of that if we're going to move toward a more worker-centric kind of environment while we are developing the new technologies that are very much a concern of a lot of people that are seeing the new age of industry, as we've gone from agricultural to industrial, and now from industrial to computer, and some people would say even post-computer, in the sense of even going further into the computer generated kind of industries. And definitely, as David was alluded to, there are a lot of people that are trying to figure out how the new technology and the new industries will work within the human interaction and the human interface and all in that space, because there was a number of concerns that a lot of folks had about how it would disrupt the industry and would definitely get a point of, as some people have wanted, where we would have a more kind of recreational lifestyle, and the other aspects of industry would be run by the technological aspects and things along those lines. But then there are some that are still wanting to go to work, including some folks that want to go to work well into their 80s and 90s, because they enjoy that camaraderie of work and all along those lines. But that's just my initial thoughts, not knowing nearly enough about Industry 5.0.
Thank you.
If I
Mr. Michael Rana, like
I can take over. Yes.
Yeah, sure,
Please.
sure.
So if I can take over, I'm the founder of Industry 5.0, so you are on the right address. So, and just to correct few of the statements, Industry 5.0 was not developed in Japan. Generally, they introduced in 2017 Society 5.0, but this is something different. At the same time, if you look at the academic papers and the others, the document published on December 1st, 2015, named Industry 5.0 from virtual to physical, make me to the owner of the intellectual property of the term. And the reason why I came with it 23 years after being in business was simple, because Industry 5.0 has several issues included. And one of the issues was that it does not count with humans. You mentioned, Mr. Smith, that generally a lot of it is being done by machines, by robots, AI, and so on. But nobody asks, what will the people do? And you know yourself, if there are people which lose the meaning of their life, and generally work is a big part of our lives. If you go back and you listen to the words, for example, of Carl Gustav Jung, I can send you the link from 1959 interview, great interview, recommend to everyone. This psychologist ended his interview with following words: the man cannot live meaningless life. And this is exactly what happened if the meaning will be lost, if we lost our work. And you just look around you, you will see the examples of the people. So my intention was to correct the issues connected with Industry 4.0, because it concentrates on more production, more volumes, without considering a single thing about nature, environment, ecology, and similar things. So this is why I call and I base it all on the principles of systematic waste prevention, understanding these 5 types of waste. And generally, I was surprised by myself how applicable this methodology is in all the industries. You know, I'm not academician myself. I started my career as a steel factory worker. And even today, I spend more time in boiler suit than delivering keynote speeches on universities. I did on 450 already. But it is just a side effect of my work when I try to teach everyone that the change and the transformation is not a matter of money or investment, but to change from wasteful to wasteless is here. It's in the mindset of man, of human, which can generally from one moment to another change their lifestyle by preventing waste happen. And it does not mean that we will have less or we will face scarcity. In fact, I spend most of my life in logistics. I do even educate global supply chain issues, innovations, and similar things, again, in factories. And I realize, for example, that less can be more, even in a financial aspect. So for 10 years, I'm asking the CEOs and owners of the company only one question, only one. Do you want to generate waste or profit? And unfortunately, you mentioned the European Commission. Yes, they adopted Industry 5.0 on January 7th, 2021. But they adopt it and say, no, it's more robots, it's more technology, but that's not true. But they did one thing. At the end of the document, which has 14 pages, there is a reference list. And the reference number 68 from 69 is Industry 5.0 definition by Michael Rana. This is the only existing definition of Industry 5.0 which was ever published. And so European Commission, unfortunately, mislead generally the public, use the term in contrary to the original content, and they know about it because we have a discussion about it and they know what they are doing. So just to narrow it, Industry 5.0 can be applied and implemented by everyone, by any industry, and it is in no way connected directly, or let's say the allowance to do it, it's not connected to technology, data, or power. It is really only the human decision. And this is so important to say and to mention. This is why I was so happy that we can deliver this keynote, and I hope we will be able to deliver presentations on the topic as well.
Hey, Michael, along those same lines, I was just wondering, as you explained it a little bit further and everything, there's been a lot of conversations here in the United States around some of the technology tools and how they are being used in the displacement of certain fields and everything. There's been a lot of conversations here and around the world with ChatGPT and a number of other things. And I have friends of mine in the music and the entertainment and performance fields. And of course, right here in the United States, we're in the middle of a writer's strike. And part of the strike is that there is a concern that some of these tools could be used to displace the workers. And it sounds like what I'm hearing of Industry 5.0, it would be putting things back in the hands of the humans as opposed to some of the technological tools, whether that is as a steel worker or a industrial worker as you are, or whether that is in the field of creatives and things along those lines. So if there are people that are in the industry, whether they be in media or in the creative space, what would you say is the reason that they should be looking at Industry 5.0 as a saving grace, or as something that they might want to research in their own endeavors and in their own work?
The answer is yes. Mark, we have right now people in 111 countries, including the US. And the US ambassador is very strong in a human resources field generally. I will connect you with him. Okay. What is important to say, in Czech Republic, I'm speaking to you from Czech Republic, Europe, so in the middle of Europe. Mm-hmm. And we have one saying, very old one. We say that fire is a great servant, but a very bad master. Right. And this exactly is for the technology. I am sitting right now, and Sharif know about it, I'm sitting 75 kilometers from a place where the word robot was invented and introduced. It was in 1921. And the author of the word, named Karel Čapek, he published a great screenplay called RUR. And already in 1921, the man who found the word robot warned from addiction on technology. So if we will be addicted on technology, then generally the technology does not need us, So we have to be creative. We have to be ourselves. And the technology, it's great that we have it, that we have computers, that we have the camera, that we can call together. That's great. But it should never step from the stage of being tool to the stage of being master of our lives. And this is exactly what Industry 5.0 does. So, this is why I mentioned that I spend more time in a boiler suit. And trust me, I speak to president in a boiler suit. I don't care. Because if on the other side is not human, so it does not deserve to speak with me. And the people are coming to me, to my office, which is built from the obsolete products from factories, These are real vinyl records here behind me. To cut this image, it's 6-hour work by hand. And everything in here is done like this. So the answer, not only for the creative people, for all people, is Industry 5.0 is a way for finding and doing meaningful work as a part of meaningful life.
Definitely.
And this is not what is Industry 5.0 delivering in any form.
Hey, David, just really quickly, as he was speaking, I was just thinking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been some folks that are in the technology field, and historical folks in the technology fields, that recognize some of the errors of their ways in the sense of what they helped to launch and everything. Because if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, again, one of the greatest inventors of all time, that being Einstein, wasn't he also involved in some of the creation of the atomic bomb? And then he had some second thoughts about that after having been involved in that creation. Because if I remember correctly, I believe it was Einstein that was involved.
And Mark, you're so right. I mean, unfortunately, most of technology has a good side and a bad side, right. And that's what we've seen over the years. Sharif, can you put up that slide for me? And if you go back, Mark, I think this kind of helps. This kind of goes back and puts the different industries together, where Industry 1.0 was really looking at the steam engine, the mass production by machines. Industry 2.0 really was where assembly lines begin to kick in. Industry 3.0 was the beginning of automation of things, where we began to see robots begin to be used, the IT systems. If you go back and look at the impact of the early computer, it's very good. It helps us forecast weather, but also it can design nuclear bombs and compute all those things too. But then you go to Industry 4.0, that's where we're in. And like I said at the start of the program, this is where the digitization comes into place, where it takes the things from Industry 3.0, the computers and the ubiquitous, and how we begin to tie things together. And it's where we digitize everything, where you see smart cities, smart communities come in, where you see the dramatic growth of intelligent devices, where even we drive a computer now, not really a car. When you get down to it, everything has become digitized. And because everything has become digitized, we're in this global environment. But then Industry 5.0 is where you see the cyber and the physical cognitive systems coming together. That's where you see green manufacturing. That's where you see cultural collaboration come together. That's where you see mass customization happening. And the other thing that really strikes me about Industry 5.0 is just beginning to do a quick literature searches and things on it, and particularly looking at some scholarly articles on it. There is so much diversity of opinion on what is Industry 5.0. When did it start? Who started it? What are the primary objectives? And how much of Industry 5.0 is tied strictly to sustainability, and how much of Industry 5.0 is beginning to recognize that the human is a real important part of it. If you go and look in Industry 3.0 and Industry 4.0, the human was kind of secondary to a lot of that. And Industry 5.0 is bringing the human back more center phase. The other thing with Industry 5.0 is there is a big emphasis, again, looking at the collected literature out on it to involve the whole developing world as well as the developed world. So with the emphasis more going towards people, going towards cultural collaboration, mass customization, the green manufacturing, and the other, it is something that is not revolutionary, but evolutionary, much like Michael said at the top of the program, and is one where we're going to see these type of changes happen and being able to drive forward with it.
To Michael's point earlier and everything, how much will the industry, one of the complaints I've heard about the new industry and the new technology is that it has gotten humans away from personal interface and personal communication, because I can't tell you how many times I have gone to a restaurant or gone even to lectures, and Michael just said that he is a lecturer, and I know that you are a lecturer as well, David, and I know Sharif has done some. I've done a few, not as many as y'all have, but sometimes you can be in the middle of a lecture and half the people that are in the lecture are on their devices communicating with other people other than those that are in the lecture and are totally ignoring.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, totally happens all the time. So that being said, how much will Industry 5.0 get us more connected to the interpersonal and to the actual connecting with other fellow human beings? Because right now there's a lot of disconnect. You can see entire families going to dinner. I don't care whether they're in the Czech Republic or in the United States, and half of them are not talking to each other. They're talking to the computers, then to whatever friend or acquaintance is around the world, or maybe even next door, and all in that space, but it's not the people directly in front of their face and all in that space. So Michael, how much will this disrupt and maybe even make it more usable, that we are more interconnected than we actually give ourselves the credit for being?
It will change a lot. To be honest, on none of my lectures, the people take their mobile phone in the hand, because it's so different to the others. And this is why it's changed even the education system and so on. I am just now for 6 months already. I am riding with different general managers of companies. I am riding with them with a car to other clients, to other factories. We are in boiler suits and we do a really hard physical work. And every single one of these general managers, which firstly came to me with a tie and suits to my office, the next time they came with jeans, and the third time when they entered, they came with a boiler suit on. Because all of them, and they are 50 plus, they are realizing the value, we call it the value of the power of touch. This is the work which you deliver by your hands. Because you can touch the result, and the touch is the most, the sense which the longest memories. This is why you remember, if you burn your fingers as a child, that fire is hot and you will burn it again. This is why you remember your mother hug you. So this is the touch. And because of that, the results which we deliver, and we have prevented more than 10 million metric tons already of products to become waste. No funding, no incentives, no support from governments, and still we have been able to do it and win a lot of money. So the answer is the people understand it very well. And David mentioned it, and I mention it intentionally in every of my keynote. What you show, David, to us, it was maybe the image of the fifth industrial revolution. But what we do is the evolution. And we have today 2 events already, and one is recorded, so I can send you the link after, where I discuss with the futurist, which we are discussing every Wednesday generally. We are discussing what is the sign of evolution, because we are being pushed to revolution by more, have more money, have more companies, and so on. This, we call it the hunt for more, bring us to the stage of extinction. Because we exploit everything, we exploit people, animals, planet, whatever, everything around us. And if you consider that, for example, the carbon emission trading was introduced in 1992 and then legalized, let's say, in 1998, and since then, the carbon is only growing, so it looks like there is something wrong. So the system must change. And this is why I do not speak about steel or education or entertainment. System must change. And to system counts the understanding of the topic. When I started in 2013, everybody told me, Mr. Rada or Michael, you cannot prevent waste happen. It's impossible to do it in factories. 5 years later, I have 1 million tons. And they told me 2 years later, the same people told me, Mr. Rada, human cannot start evolution. But I did. I didn't ask anyone. I simply did. The great advantage of evolution comparing to revolution is that once started, it cannot be ended. I lived for 18 years in a Czechoslovak socialist republic, in a communist country, for the first 18 years of my life. I have spent in my schools a lot of time learning about the revolution, especially Soviet revolution, Cuba, Vietnam, and so on and so on. And I realized later that all revolutions have something in common. First of all, it is sudden moment. So it's a short moment of something which change. This is one thing. The second, if you pay the soldiers more, they will kill for you. They don't care. So you can buy the revolution. This is the second topic. And the third one, what is the result? Few people will have better life, a lot of money, and the rest will live in scarcity. And this is the result of our revolution. And then 30 years later, I have the opportunity to deliver a keynote about industrial revolutions. And I analyze them. And I find out that from the first one, as described by David, to the fourth one, every next one is half the time of the previous one. Half the time or even more. And if you consider that Industry 4.0 was unofficially introduced in Germany in 2011, but it took 2 years to make it official. So in 2013 was the official launch. And I introduced Industry 5.0 on December 1st, 2015. So the last industrial revolution before introducing the new one take only 2 years. Because everything is going faster. But we have to slow down. because slowing down will help us, and this is evolution, because otherwise mass production, there is the word mass, no matter whether it's mass customization, all the time mass, the quantity, and this is wrong. A lot of people are speaking about plastic, single-use plastic bottles as an evil. You know, the plastic is just another form of crude oil. For 50 years exists a technology called pyrolyze, which can turn it back to the crude oil. The issue is not the plastic. The issue is single use. This is the true issue. Why shouldn't I, when I empty the bottle, why shouldn't I fill it again? The bottle is not, there is no hole, I can do it. And I do it with bottle to test it. I have here 6 years bottles, which I refill with water for my flowers. And the bottles are still here. You know, on September 1st, 2021, we introduced this document. You cannot read it, but I will send it to you. In 10 years, I published over 5,000 articles myself. I am a heavy contributor, heavy writer. But for this one page, I need 8 years to write. And it is one page. It's called the Waste Prevention Legislation. And I will send it to you after. You can put it on a wall in a school, on a governmental office, in a mine, and it will work. This is why it took so long to write this one page. And there is described how we can prevent waste happen. And the second part, this is this part. The second part is generally how waste is being created. Because in fact, there is no waste if we do not waste. So there are basic principles stated in there. We share it on the first day with 61 countries and governments, and today is shared to 111 countries and governments. And a lot of companies are implementing these principles, and they do understand why the systematic waste prevention is so powerful, because they can generate more money, more profit, but without the damage of the planet or the life of people or animals, of course. So, and this is why I have the keynotes and so on. This is why I deliver a lot to the university, despite of having any title. So I am being invited to deliver, and the people understand what I say. Even my English is broken, it's fine, because they look for content. And this is the highest reward for me, that the people do understand me.
And Michael, isn't part of the problem with waste is that in most of the Western society, a lot of the waste is needless waste. I do remember, and I think I brought it up on a past show, that before the pandemic many years ago, there was a sports franchise, and I can only imagine what it would be like in a soccer match, but it was a football franchise that was actually in New York that realized that there was a lot of waste that was being wasted by the fans. So they decided to give that waste to some of those that were less fortunate. So therefore it became less wasteful in that sense. And I can imagine, because I do know that there are some restaurants around this area, meaning North Carolina, that have done similar kind of things. So it seems to me that a lot of the waste that is out there is waste that we needlessly throw away, that is probably very useful to somebody else, even if it's not useful to us. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, because I wanted to think it was the Jets, or it might have been the Giants that did it.
You are right, and I will give you one horrible topic about waste, food or food waste. Mm-hmm. You remember probably your mother and grandmother told you the same as me when we have been children. Right. Eat all what is on plate, not to waste. Is it so? You know, and then when I started with this field, you know how much from the global 100% of food waste, okay? How much are the remains on plates in the restaurants, schools, hospitals, households? How much percentage of this 100% make this waste? What do you think?
Oh, I can only imagine it's probably in the multiple tons, because I know in that New York situation, it was like, I want to say in the millions, if not billions.
No. In the percentage from the total volume. I don't want to a number. In the percentage from 100% of food waste, how much out of it is the rest on the plates?
Probably a good, well, I'm trying to think of just on an average plate, there's probably about 10 to 20% that is salvageable.
Many people think even more, but the reality is 2. And just now the horrific topic, 75% of all food and crop produced and planted get wasted before reaching the second stage of production.
Right.
So, we are planting our food to throw it away because the leaves are not green enough for the buyer in a chain store.
Right.
And if you speak about useful waste, what you see here, it's a construction material, okay? So it's like plasterboard. This is, in fact, dangerous waste from Indian hospital, turned into the construction material. There is nothing dangerous about it. It's a useful. The next example I took yesterday in a factory. You see this cable? It's a really cable. So you see it's quite long, and this is waste filled with copper. Still is being wasted. The waste company, which generally buy it from the client or bought it before I enter, they offer for this, let's say 20. Don't ask what, so 20.
Yeah.
But the real price is 280. And this is what make the waste industry, this behavior, make waste industry to the 3rd most profitable industry in the world. The first one is the war industry. The second one is the crude oil industry still. And the third one is the waste industry. The crude oil industry is quite in a big trouble. So can you imagine what will happen? We will live on a planet where first will be war and second will be waste. Which means one generate the second generate one. I do not want to live on a global landfill. This is why I spent 14 to 17 hours a day for 10 years to change this. And it is possible. I change a lot of speak to millions of people already. And we will do much stronger impact. And I see that you are the producer at Pod TV. Let's send a message to all people all around the globe from one day to another. We will change their mindset. And I know it because I did it in so many classes, in so many conferences. I don't care whether it's president or a waste cleaner. We are all humans. I have on my business card, I have only one title for 8 years. I don't know whether you can see it. It's the only title on my business card. It's human. And from the other side, this is a new business card. There is a message for the people. Because I realized that the giants start to shrink when the humans start to grow.
Did you, Michael, did you ever see the movie? Because actually I used to go regularly, even though they didn't have it this year because of some internal politics and everything, to the Full Frame Film Festival. And there was a film several years ago that was actually produced and then shown on PBS, which is called Wasteland. It was about a renowned artist that went to his area from Brooklyn to his native Brazil and actually was seeing what was going on in the waste in that area, because apparently Brazil generates like 79 million tons of solid waste every year. So this movie was him exploring his home country of Brazil and kind of what it is doing in the waste space. So I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but if you've not seen it,
I have not, but I am sure we are speaking the same language. The only difference is that I do offer solution. Greta Thunberg was great to wake up the people. I said the same for 8 years before her, but nobody listened to me. I am white, old, man, and whatever. So I have not the right, let's say, specification to be listened to. But Greta made one mistake, not because intentionally, that was not intention, and I do not blame her. I thank her for her work. But the only issue, what she did, she was not able during her wake-up calls to deliver the solution, to offer the tool of change. But I spent all my life in factories. I know that the companies will not follow me because of sustainability, but every single one follow me because Industry 5.0 make them more profitable. And the crazy part, without the capital investment, it's just here. You just look at this cable and you don't see it as a 20 crowns material, but you see its value, the true value, which is being hidden. So this is this is the answer. This is why Industry 5.0 is so different, why I have to create the principles, why I have to educate the other people who do the legislation, why I have to write the legislation, because not a single word, legislation in the world, not a single one, and I studied a lot, defined how waste is being created. It's unbelievable. You know, the waste industry did it very specific way. I will show you something which is maybe interesting for you. I will show you how waste is being created according to the legislation. It's just two-minute explanation. Just imagine that we meet in a one room, okay? And I am used to give you my business card. I hand it over to you, you take it, everything is fine. Just now erase this memory and we meet again for the first time. And there is one difference. As we come to each other, between us plays someone, don't ask why, new stainless steel garbage bin, okay? I came to you and I fall down and the business card fall in the garbage bin. I do not have any second one, but for whatever reason, Mark, you would like to have it. So we look inside the garbage, there is only the business card, nothing else. So you say, okay, I will take it. So I take it out, I apologize with you, check it whether it's really clean, hand it over to you. And right now came the crazy part. If you take it from me in Czech Republic, you take the right on a penalty of 200,000 US dollars. It will be the most expensive business card in your life. Do you know why? Because the definition of waste, and the same is in the US and in many countries, is firstly, waste is something what you would like to get rid of. Nothing more. This is what I call a stupid definition, but the second is better. It says, waste is something which you place on a location dedicated to waste storage. And this is what happened with the business card. And just now I will show you a very special thing. Here is the edge of the business, of the garbage bin, okay? And just now look how it works. Here is a business card. Here is waste. Nothing happened with it. And this is what makes it so profitable for the waste industry, because here it's your profit. Here is your cost and the profit of waste industry. So how you prevent waste happen? Just stretch your hand and don't let it reach this stage. 99% of all materials, there are exceptions, but 99%, you can do it. So we save hundreds and thousands and millions just by not reaching this stage, but finding it and using it as a material or as a product or something else. But we do not reach this stage. And if you speak about recycling, no, it's not recycling. Because to recycle, you can only waste recycle. But what we do, it's upcycling. So we increase the value of something which will be thrown away. And this is a very interesting part about, we already improve the economy of companies every time. And I am not a cheap guy when they hire me, but generally the return of my salary or of my payment is every single time shorter than the project itself. And no matter whether we speak about millions of payment or hundreds of thousands, it doesn't matter. It's all the time shorter. And then they only profit. So you see, David, this is the difference, because as I said, I am not theoretical. I work in the factories. I implement it because I need to test and I need to touch the things. I can speak about it after, but I can do only if I test it before. So if I ask my client to do something, I am the one who is testing it first. And trust me, sometimes it's really, really hard work, but it's all the time worth to do. Mm-hmm. So sorry for such a long speech.
Okay, Professor David is speaking. What do you want to add?
Well, Sharif, this has been a very interesting discussion, and how to put the different elements around it. Let me just throw a couple of things in towards the end of how do you get Industry 5.0 to work with others and how you begin to put them together. One of them is how do we begin to look and dramatically redefine the human-machine interaction. And this is going to let us be defiant because we have all these embedded sensors, we have digitized actuators, we have machine learning technologies, the application of a very advanced vision recognition, I believe, is about to revolutionize this area as we combine it with some more of the AI tools. One of the companies here in Austin has really taken the vision recognition of the old Industry 4.0 and have moved it into the mainstream. For example, it will protect workers on an oil platform from being hurt or in a robotics factory or the other thing by combining the vision recognition, the AI, and really merging together Industry 4.0 and 5.0. You also see the ability to design what is now called collaborative robots and do the same thing. And as you see these coming together, it helps reduce waste, increase sustainability compliance, and really improves efficiency around it. Also, part of what you're going to see here is really advanced data management analysis systems that really leverage AI, machine learning. You're going to see the concept called digital twins and simulation models, which really are to help prevent waste and minimize the wear on the real world systems, and really helps increase the learning and efficiency of the human users and how it can be used. Also, you're seeing that virtual reality and augmented reality are really becoming a big force here in how it can be used. And it's going to help align the factories of the future. So, Sharif, these are just a few of the things.
May I add something? Thank you, David. All the technologies you mentioned, I work with, because as I said, I work in a factories, I do improvements of the factories. What is important to say, all what you mentioned, we call in Industry 5.0 on-the-ground mines. So something which is existing. We call it, in Czech language, it is existing resources. Computer, camera, artificial intelligence, all of them. But we, as humans, have to learn to use them the way that they are not mastering our life. And that they already do. Look at the smartphones. And you mentioned, both of you mentioned the lectures when the people take the smartphones and look at them, not listen to you. You know, I have learned when I was 48, I realized, because there was update of my Android phone, and I realized I am addicted to my phone because there was a counter how many times I unlock the phone, and I did it 357 times a day. So I said to me, okay, Michael, you are addicted. You have to do something with it. And I did a very special thing, which the young generation is hard to do. I go to my cupboard and took out this lady, which you probably remember. It's Nokia 6301, and this is the only mobile phone in a mobile phone history, which was 3 years in a row the best business mobile phone in the world. And I said to me, okay, Michael, if you will be able to start it after 10 years in a box, you will use it for 3 months. And I started, you know, and I used it for 3 months as my main phone. And what was interesting, it taught me why I was addicted. And the addiction was the fact that notifications make me addicted. So I switch all notifications off. And at the beginning, when I realized I am addicted, my user time was 87%. Today it is 4%, because it is me who decided whether I will pick up the phone or whether I will interact. I have there on only standard call and standard SMS message. All the others are switched off. So this is the change of the behavior. So let's use the technology. And I know great examples which you mentioned, David, for improving the safety of the people and so on. Unfortunately, from the waste reduction, maybe wasting of time, they are using it. But in fact, artificial intelligence and all this, including digital twins, which I do implement as well in the factories, are originally intended not to reduce the waste, but to fit in a system. And the system, if you look, for example, if you start to work with steel and you get a steel on a reel, so on a drum, let's say, in a description how to use it is that you have to take 10 meters away, cut it away, and waste it. But it does not say, and no digital twin will help you to say it's not right. This can be done only by someone who really disturbs the system. And Industry 5.0 is disturbing because we are creating a new system. And this is the difference. So I don't know whether we lost both of them or whether they are listening somewhere. You have more experience, David. So what do you think?
Sharif has traditionally bad internet. And
Okay.
he's the only one who can end the show. So let me say something that just at the end, and maybe you and I just need to drop him. That might end the show. But I kind of look at something. Forbes published very recently an article on Industry 5.0 that I found very interesting. And
I know.
And you might want to correct them about the start of it and everything in that article. But what I really liked in the article is kind of how they wrapped it up. And I thought this might be a good wrap up for me too, is Industry 5.0 is in the early stages, even though you said it's been around for a while and it's beginning to be exposed to a lot of people. But being a professional futurist, there is something called a Fisher-Price curve, which is that traditional S curve you see. Industry 5.0 is at the bottom of that S curve where it has not started going up the slope yet. And if I look at penetration of it, it's probably still down in the noise where it has not yet begun to go to what futurists call substitution. And that's as it goes up the S curve. So it's a place where it can still be influenced. It's a place where you can still begin to be an early adopter and begin to push it more. Also, many of the businesses today are still heavily engaged in Industry 4.0, and even many of them are still doing Industry 3.0 as well. And the sustainability bandwagon has just started to get really serious. The last two United Nations-led COPs, you have the others. We can go back to the Paris Accord if we want to. They have been slow to gain speed too. Using that same S curve, they're further up this slope, but not much further up the slope. And you're beginning to see governments, you're beginning to see industry groups, you're beginning to see the EU and others begin to push companies to this and for the next level, and what that can do, and help give companies a vision. And you're giving companies a vision of what to progress will mean. But with the challenges we face in our global environment today, Industry 5.0 seems to be a very plausible and a very preferred way to answer it. And it's one which I think we need to take and implement very much further. So, Michael, that's my conclusion, and I don't see Sharif back, so I'm just going to probably drop off.
I'm not sure whether he will, but thank you for the conclusion. I read and follow all publications about Industry 5.0. So I know that in Forbes there has been 8 already, and I try to get in touch with the authors and explain. But I see it from the perspective. I cannot hear you, David, because your microphone is off. If you said something, no. Okay, so I'm not sure if anybody else is still listening or not, but if so, let me say and react on the words of David. I see I see that generally, I see Industry 5.0 principles from the perspective of 10 years. So for me, it's not a short time. And I see the changes which has been implemented. Jaguar Land Rover, Airbus, United Nations, European Commission, all these people speak about Industry 5.0, use the term, but do not understand the content. But the content changed already millions of people all around the globe. People who do understand that to prevent waste happen is not matter of money, but matter of will. And exactly will is the part which is missing at COP27, COP28, at European Commission, at the World Bank, at World Economic Forum, and everywhere. Because these people, which I call giants, they have no intention to change their behavior, which make them profitable. But I'm sorry, it's too late, giants. Michael Rada started first industrial evolution ever led by man, by human, and I will not allow anyone turn our planet into a global landfill, the same as our orbit is being turned to. On the orbit, if you don't know, is 170 million pieces of space debris. Happy to have you back, Mark. I don't know which part have you listened to.
Sharif is the one in charge and everything, so it must have been something going on his end. And I don't know what's happening with David, but I was listening to you and learning a lot. So definitely, waste is a big problem, not just on the kind of developed countries, but definitely is one that we face here in the United States and throughout the Western world as well. So definitely is something that needs to be addressed. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on and everything, whether you're Republican or Democrat here in the United States, or whether you're socialist or communist or capitalist, there's definitely something that is the issue that the planet needs to tackle. So I definitely agree with you on that, because it is definitely something that could be detrimental and could impact our own existence here for the decades and the millennium. I don't know that it will destroy the world before the end of my life, as I'm already about to be 61 in July, but I do have nephews, and I definitely don't want it to impact in their lives. And even at my age, it does impact our lives as well. But I don't know that it will end to the total destruction. But we look at the evolution and we look at the population in general, it can definitely have a very detrimental impact both in our existing lives and also in our future. We can have a very apocalyptic kind of world if we don't deal with this issue.
I will tell you that generally Industry 5.0 is a tool to reach an aim, which I set up 10 years ago. This aim is to build wasteless world for all, not just for the rich ones, not just for the on the right side or on the left side, no, for all. And one question to you, which will be maybe interesting for you. There is only one role model for Industry 5.0, only one. And my question is, who or what is this role model? Role model, somewhere we look at.
I know that I had a friend that was in Bermuda. They did some things around waste, and I mentioned Brazil, but Brazil's not done nearly enough. Bermuda's done a little bit of work. It could be Cuba, because they've done some interesting work. I really don't know, but I'm just trying to think.
It's not an easy question. If you will listen to my keynote, you will know, but you have not opportunity to do before.
Okay.
It's nature.
Nature.
You know, because nature does not waste.
That is very true.
And this is why it is really our structure. And have you ever seen a tree holding a business plan in a branch that tomorrow the apples should be delivered? I have not. And have you seen a tree running across? No. Because for nature, generally for nature, imperfection is perfect of nature. Or can you imagine that all the trees are the same, all the leaves are the same, everything like IKEA, it will be a nightmare and it will not survive. That's the next part, because if all apples will grow at the same moment, we will never be able to consume them. But if one grows today, the next one on Wednesday, nature knows what it's doing, and it's doing it for a few millions of years or billions, I don't know, quite a long time. So
It's been
we
done
have
for
to
quite a long
see.
time. But Michael, it's interesting you bring that up because I've done hundreds, if not thousands, of these shows and everything. And one thing that I have brought up on a couple of things is that whether it was the pandemic, which we have now supposedly moving toward the endemic stage and is getting out of, in all of that phrase, or whether it was 9/11 here in the United States, usually nature also pays attention to the entirety of the universe. So in both of those cases, nature paid attention to us as humans because I remember talking to friends of mine that even lived in New York and they don't remember a squirrel or a bird being around during that attack because it was almost as if nature got that message. Humans are about to be really stupid, so y'all might want to go and hide and all along those lines. And then the opposite happened with the pandemic. We all went inside and nature got to enjoy itself. There was like animals that went into the Italian canals that hadn't usually been there. There were animals like deers that literally walk down the highways of North Carolina and everything because hey, no humans were in the car, so they were able to actually get out and enjoy their natural environment. Whereas us as
Yeah.
humans and industrialized humans will disrupt what they naturally want to do.
One of the reasons why nature cannot waste is because the waste is the word which humans invented. Nature did not invent it. The tree does not care whether the leaf is falling on the right or on the left side, whether it will be eaten by an animal or turned to soil. Nature does not care. It's important that it's being used and utilized. And this is exactly what I implement. This is why when you compare it to what David says, he is more on an academic level. He is a futurist. I am a practitioner. I spent all my life in factories. So I can do with these hands. And this is if I can deliver, anyone can, because I am not the skilled one. But I need to touch it. And I sent you to your LinkedIn profile, I send you the invitation. If you confirm, I can send you the legislation generally, which is quite interesting to read. Because as I said, on one paper, I am not used to it. Usually I write an article in 10 minutes, but 8 years to write this paper. 8 years.
I would definitely confirm that. I'm usually on LinkedIn, so I would definitely do that just as we're winding down because I know Sharif got to give his closing remarks and thoughts. I will tell you that I had a guest on, I think it was yesterday, and they mentioned that they had gone to medical school. I want to say somewhere in the Northeast here in the United States, but no, I'm sorry, they were down in Florida, but they literally forego their medical school because they realized that they would much rather be a farmer. And it was a young lady, probably in her mid-20s and something. And so she moved to the Black Mountains of North Carolina versus spending all that money on medicine and on medical school because she's also very much into the nature and natural kind of cure. So she's studying natural cures and conscious living and all in that space. So Riley Dasham, if I remember the last correctly, and she's of mixed heritage because I think her dad was, or one of the parents was from Vietnam, and the other parent was from Puerto Rico. So definitely of Asian Puerto Rican descent, and all along those lines. But she was like you, somebody that was thinking that they needed to actually be having that touching the soil kind of lifestyle. So she literally moved up to Black Mountains, North Carolina, has bought a farm and is living that kind of life versus being a doctor caught up in the corporate medicine world.
And what you will love, generally, in Industry 5.0, we go back to roots. Because in the roots, this is what exactly as you described. In the roots, the people, if you try to go back to roots, it's quite interesting. If you go deeper and deeper in the history, you will realize that the people has been much more efficient than we are today. If they built a pyramid, they have only one trial. If they did not succeed, there has been death. So simple it was. We have machines, we have everything. We can try again. We can apply the digital twin. We can play with it. We can reprint it, reproduce it. But they have only one test. And what is interesting, their structures are standing till today.
One of the Michael, one of the greatest irrigation devices, and it is still standing to this day. You mentioned the pyramids, but having some friends that are from Latin America, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that one of the greatest irrigation tools was actually there in like the Inca area of
Yes,
that part of the world. I think that's Peru that was in and everything, but it's where the Incans and the Aztecs were at and everything. But one
Incas,
of the, they still
Indias.
have some of those devices that are still working even to this day, even though that was built some tens of thousands of years ago.
In India is the same. The only issue was that they look, because of the British and the influence and so on, they look to the West as the role model. You know,
Right.
my government says that Czech Republic is recycling in a rate of 92%. This is official statement which you will find on the website of our country. The reality is 12. There is 80% difference. What is this 80% made of? My government name sorting and they name it recycling instead of sorting. We are good in sorting, yes, we sort a lot, but we don't recycle. We send the sorted material to China before, to other destinations, and you know the biggest landfill for fast fashion is in Chile. The biggest landfill for tires, it's in Kuwait. Nobody knows how all the tires came there.
Right.
So we are behaving wrongly just to say we are clean. So we send it. The paper industry of Sweden was moved to Brazil, to Manaus.
Mm-hmm.
In this part of the world, the water in Amazon River is generally a poison, is acid. You cannot put your hand inside. It will completely eliminate your hand.
Right.
But Sweden says we are the cleanest country. It's not true. In Sweden, they are built a incarnation facility for waste, and there are so many that they have to import waste from all over the Europe, which is not sustainable at all. But the Swedish people do not know about it. I know about it because I'm really deep, and my network is about 26,000 people all around the globe. You know, I deliver really. I was happy that I can speak with the people like with you, like with Sharif, and I'm happy that the people do understand that the waste prevention is not a matter of the government, and the government don't care. It's the matter of us, of humans here. If we wake up all the humans, we don't need the governments. You know, it's just artificial. And there's a lot of talks. I don't want to take too much of your time, and I don't know, Sharif, what time is it right now with you?
It's about here. It's
Midnight?
about 1:07, I believe,
Yes.
and everything. So I know that Sharif's getting ready to
Okay.
wind down. So
I
we're
can
going to
speak
toss
about
back
it
to
for
Sharif.
hours and hours, but let's pay attention
Thank
to
you,
the
everyone.
organizer, and let me wish you all. No. Let me please let us finish with the sign which we use when we have a partnership, and Sharif know it. We end with this sign, and just now let me explain. This does not mean Michael is number one or Sharif or Umar. In Industry 5.0, this means we follow one aim, and this aim is to build wasteless world. So if you agree, we can make a screenshot that all of us follow the same aim. It's up to you. 3, 2, 1, smile. Sharif, your thumb is missing. Okay, let me check if it's safe, and if it's so, we can finish. And sorry for the yes. So I will share it with you. It was a pleasure to meet you, and let me wish you all have a nice time free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe and free. And see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.